And then I suddenly get to see a tweet by a fellow writer saying that, why she got this billing? Because she married someone. Now, a Kanika who's just entered the industry, instead of working my ass off, should I go look for a husband who's in these? I mean, what are you trying to say? That top billing that I got was solely Netflix's initiative. It had nothing to do with the production house. It had nothing to do with anyone. A collective victory for all of us happened with this particular film, where Netflix took this call and gave top billing to a writer. Now, my question is that, it was a collective victory. Yeah. We all should have celebrated it. And the reaction from a certain member of my own community was like a very bitter kind of reaction, because it stung me twice over.
A very special person, somebody whose work I have enjoyed and how. Joining me is the extremely talented Kanika Dhillon. Welcome, Kanika, and thank you so much for joining in. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Of course. I first of all want to congratulate you on Haseen Dillruba, which is just it's just amazing. What is the adjective that I should use? It's just creating such a huge mess, good mess. And it's amazing how it's, trending all over on Netflix, and people are sending in so much love. You're also very active on social media, and, I see you interacting with a lot of people and, sharing their comments and all of that. So tell me a little about the kind of response that you're getting.
Well, it's the first for me to, ironically, this is the first time I've had such a great audience response towards a film of mine. Usually I've always had, some very, critics have always appreciated my work, and somehow it has never reached a larger audience, as large as I'd like it to be in some cases. Although, Kedarnath and other films did reach out, but Haseen Dillruba has another level of reach, I feel. The kind of messages, the kind of reactions, the kind of the entire hysteria around the film, and I've not heard things like that for any of my film before. And it's sheer audience, a delighted audience saying, "Yaar, maza aa gaya." Matlab, it's not that they're like, people are calling me and saying, "Yaar, maza aa gaya." And I've not heard this ever.
I also want to know from you, pehle ke comparison mein towards how things are now, even like how you're talking about your previous films, do you feel that, I've always felt, and I've always spoken to a lot of people also, and they always say that writers are often not credited as much as they should be. When films are praised by the audience, especially, they just take into consideration the actors, of course, and the director, which has also started, I think, a few years from now only. But the writers is something that I see now slowly, that, people are taking note of them and they're appreciating that as well. So I also want to know, how challenging is it for you to be a female writer in this industry? Because there was also recent incident where, things were just blown out of proportion for your name coming on the poster and all of that, which actually, it was kind of strange. But I also really loved the kind of response and love and support that you got, all over social media, where people poured in so much love and they stood up for you. So I think I do see some change here and there, but I think you're the better person to tell me if there is actually any change as far as the writers getting the credit is concerned.
You've asked me literally 4 questions in this one short statement, but let me answer them as best as I can and as cohesively as I can. Not many people know that, but the credit that came, that top billing that I got was solely Netflix's initiative. It had nothing to do with the production house. It had nothing to do with anyone. It was only Netflix's decision to, of course, I had a conversation with Netflix. And of course, before me, there are many more talented and many more relevant writers who had this conversation with Netflix. It just so happened that a collective victory for all of us happened with this particular film where Netflix took this call and gave top billing to a writer. Now, my question is that, it was a collective victory.
Yeah.
We all should have celebrated it, because finally, when I sit across the negotiation, when I sit across the table negotiating with my producer, he tells me that, what, Kanika, I don't have a benchmark for writers being given these kind of credits. I don't have a benchmark for writers being given this kind of, the easiest and the most convenient thing is there's no precedence. There is no benchmark. Now here we are. Now sit across the table and say that girl got it. So I'm here to ask for mine. So we have to celebrate it. Firstly, we have to scream about it. Like everybody should know that this has happened. And then when everyone knows this has happened, you can use it in your negotiation. And that's how I looked at it. And the reaction from a certain member of my own community was like a very bitter kind of reaction, because it stung me twice over. First, because as a woman, I felt it was so offensive that you are telling, like if I was pre-Manmarziyan days, if I was to hear someone say this, if I was following a writer who's doing this body of work and I'm seeing her graph, and then I suddenly get to see a tweet by a fellow writer saying that, why she got this billing? Because she married someone. Now, a Kanika who's just entered the industry, instead of working my ass off, should I go look for a husband who's in these, what are you trying to say? It was, at every level, it was offensive. And the fact that I could have let it go, but then it would have been very hypocritical of me to kind of let it slide by. Nobody would have noticed that message if I had not made an issue out of it. But the reason is that whoever would have read it on the timeline would know that I've let it go. Secondly, when I say that, speaking up is the most important thing as a woman that one needs to know, how can I not do it? And Twitter is also a social space. Twitter is a micro representation of a society. It's a micro, how should I say? It's an extension. It's a digital extension of a society. And would you not stand up for sexism and slurs and trolls? You have to. Otherwise, it's going to be a messy, stinky place. So I felt that I had to kind of react to that for various reasons, which I kind of listed out. The only reason why I talk about this and I talk about it really loudly is because I have struggled my way up. And I know when pre-Manmarziyan days, I know how long, how dark and how frustrating sometimes, confusing this period of struggle can be. And, when I was finding my way around, I was looking at these guys who were like in the limelight. I was looking at them. I was trying to chart my way, looking at what these guys were doing, what was happening around them. Yeah. So I know that I'm sure that since I do a lot of work and I am out there very frequently, I do know that there are a lot of people like me who've just started out, and they are looking at my graph and what am I doing? And I do have a very strong sense of responsibility. And yes, I do speak out, because the only way to underline all this, the only way to underline credit, the only way to underline money, the only way to underline, yes, this is right and this is not, is to talk about it and for it to reach to all these guys. So that's the only reason. Otherwise, I personally, if you ask me, I'm pretty happy. I've had it good so far. I've had a great journey, and post-Manmarziyan, it's been a beautiful ride for me. But yes, I still do talk about the important issues that need to be. And I always stand up and, fight for something that I feel is right.
That is what I feel is really inspiring, for women out there, and especially for even writers out there, like you said, who are just starting out, and, for them to look up to you and just be like, this is exactly how I want to be like. I think that's just a victory in itself, not just as a professional, but also as a person. So I think that's there. So kudos to you for that.